Ryan had always loved quiet places. His ranch sat on the edge of a small town, surrounded by open fields, tall trees, and a long wooden fence that ran all the way to the dirt road. The ranch had been in his family for 3 generations. It was the place where he learned how to ride horses, fix fences, and enjoy peaceful mornings with coffee on the porch. Before he joined the army, Ryan promised himself that no matter where life took him, he would always come back to that ranch. It was his dream to keep it alive and pass it down to his younger sister, Mia, who lived in the nearby town. When Ryan got his deployment orders, he felt a mix of pride and sadness. He loved serving his country, but leaving the ranch behind was never easy. He spent the last few days before leaving repairing fences, checking water lines, and making sure the caretaker, Mr. Howard, had everything he needed to look after the place. "Take care of the ranch, and don't let anyone mess with it," Ryan said as he loaded his gear into the truck. Mr. Howard nodded. "Don't you worry, son. This land's safe. Been here for years, and no one's going to touch it." Ryan smiled, gave one last look at the big oak tree in front of the house, and drove away. For months, Ryan was away serving overseas. He stayed busy, focused on his mission. But every night before sleeping, he thought about the ranch, the smell of the fresh grass, the sound of the horses, and the quiet evenings under the sky. Back home, strange things started to happen. A new group of people moved into the nearby area, calling themselves the Sunridge Homeowners Association. No one knew much about them, but they acted like they owned everything around. They sent letters to local residents about new rules and property fees. People were confused because the area had never been part of any HOA. One morning, Mr. Howard saw 2 men wearing uniforms that looked like police outfits, with badges that said Sunridge Security. They stopped by the ranch gate and began taking pictures. "Can I help you?" Mr. Howard asked as he walked toward them. The taller man smiled. "We're from the Sunridge HOA enforcement. We're updating our property records." Mr. Howard frowned. "This land doesn't belong to any HOA, it's private." The men ignored him and kept writing notes on their clipboards. Mr. Howard called Mia right away. She came over quickly and spoke to the men herself, but they told her that the property was under new management. They handed her a paper that looked official but had no government seal on it. Mia tried calling Ryan, but his line was out of reach due to his location. She left him messages explaining that something odd was happening, but she could only hope he would get them soon. Weeks later, Mia received another letter, this time claiming that the ranch was behind on community fees and that it would be reclaimed if the payments were not made. She showed the letter to the sheriff, but he said it looked fake. Still, the HOA people kept showing up with clipboards, taking pictures and talking to neighbors. Then one day, when Mia came to visit the ranch, she found the gate locked with a new chain. Mr. Howard's truck was gone, and there were for sale signs on the property. She stood there in disbelief. "This can't be real," she whispered. She called the sheriff again, but by the time he arrived, a moving truck was already in the driveway. The fake HOA men claimed the land was legally sold to a new owner. They showed documents with Ryan's forged signature. The sheriff said he would look into it, but he could not act until a formal investigation was made. Mia felt helpless. The people who moved in acted as if nothing was wrong. They brought furniture, put up their own signs, and told the neighbors that Ryan had sold the ranch. When Ryan finally returned home months later, he was shocked. He drove toward his property, only to find strangers living there. His family name had been taken off the mailbox. His old barn had been painted white, and the wooden gate had a new sign that read, "Private property, Sunridge residents only." Ryan got out of his truck, confused. A man in a polo shirt and a fake security badge walked up to him. "Can I help you, sir?" the man asked. "Yes," Ryan said, keeping calm. "This is my ranch," the man chuckled. "I think you're mistaken. This land was sold while you were away." Ryan's face tightened. "Sold? I didn't sell anything." The man handed him a folder with papers that had Ryan's name printed on them. But when Ryan looked closer, he noticed the signature was wrong. The handwriting didn't match his. The date was also during the time he was deployed overseas. "This is fake," Ryan said. "You forged this." The man just shrugged. "Take it up with the HOA office." Ryan stood there, heart pounding, as the fake guard walked away. He felt anger and disbelief mixing inside him. How could someone sell his family land while he was serving his country? He drove straight to Mia's house. She was relieved to see him, but also nervous to tell him what had happened. She showed him all the letters, fake documents, and photos she had taken of the people who moved in. "I tried everything," she said. "I called the sheriff, I called a lawyer, but they all said it would take time." Ryan sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "If they want to play with fake papers, we'll show them real ones." The next morning, he put on his uniform and went to the local courthouse. He presented his deployment records and land ownership documents. The county clerk confirmed that the ranch had never been sold under his name. The documents used for the fake sale were completely illegal, but when Ryan asked who was behind it, the clerk said the case had already been passed to the Federal Property Division because of suspected fraud involving multiple properties in the area. Ryan realized his ranch wasn't the only one targeted. The fake HOA had been trying to take control of the entire neighborhood. They used fake badges, fake documents, and fake sales to trick people into giving up their homes. That evening, as Ryan stood on the hill overlooking his ranch, the sunset cast a golden light over the fields. He made a silent promise to himself that he would not rest until every person responsible for this scam was exposed. Little did he know, the next steps he would take would not only bring justice for himself, but would also lead to a shocking outcome that no one in that town could have imagined. Ryan spent the night at his sister's house. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw strangers walking around his family ranch, laughing, sitting on his porch, and pretending to own it. The thought made his heart heavy. That land was more than just property to him. It was his childhood, his father's dream, and his home. The next morning, he went back to the ranch. This time, he parked a little far and watched from the hill. There were 3 cars in the driveway and a few people working in the yard. They were painting the fence and putting up new lights near the gate. Ryan noticed that one of the men wore the same Sunridge security badge he had seen before. Mia joined him a few minutes later. She brought her camera to take pictures. "If we can collect proof, it will help when we go to the court," she said. Ryan nodded. "We'll do this the right way." They spent hours taking photos from a distance. Ryan also noted down the car numbers and faces of the people living there. Later that day, he went to the sheriff's office again. The sheriff, an older man named Daniels, greeted him politely. "Ryan, I'm glad you're back. I heard about what happened," Daniels said. Ryan showed him the photos and the fake documents. "Sheriff, these people forged my signature and sold my land. I want to press charges." Daniels looked at the papers carefully. "You're right. This isn't legal, but I'll need permission from the county court to investigate deeper. These people are part of something bigger. We've received reports from other families, too." Ryan could feel the seriousness in his voice. "So they've been doing this to others as well?" "Yes," Daniel said. "They act like an HOA, but they're not registered. They use fear and fake authority to take people's homes." Ryan clenched his fists. "We can't let them keep doing this." Daniels promised to file a case and start the investigation. But he also warned Ryan to stay calm and not confront the fake owners himself. Ryan agreed. But deep inside, he knew he could not just stand by. That ranch was his life's pride. He decided to use his training to gather information quietly. Over the next few days, he observed the people living on the ranch. He noticed that one of them always carried a walkie-talkie and kept checking cars that passed by. Another man would come late at night in a white truck and drop off envelopes. One evening, while sitting in his truck outside the area, Ryan saw the man from the white truck meet 2 others near the gate. They talked for a while and exchanged a folder. Ryan used his phone camera to record the scene. He zoomed in as much as he could and caught the license plate clearly. When he shared the video with Sheriff Daniels, the sheriff said he would forward it to the Federal Property Fraud Unit. "This is strong evidence, Ryan," he said. "You've done a good job. We'll trace that truck." Meanwhile, Mia went to the town records office to check property ownership files. There she met a clerk named Lisa, who looked nervous when Mia mentioned the Sunridge HOA. Lisa quietly told her that many files had been recently changed or replaced. Mia asked, "By who?" Lisa whispered, "A man named Collins. He said he was from a special inspection team, but I later found out no one by that name works in the county office." Mia immediately called Ryan and told him everything. Ryan realized that the fake HOA had someone working from the inside, helping them change documents. Days turned into a week, and Ryan grew more restless. The legal process was slow, and the fake owners acted like they were untouchable. They held small gatherings at his ranch, inviting new people to see the property. Ryan began to worry that they might sell parts of the land to others. Finally, one morning, Ryan received a call from Sheriff Daniels. "We traced the white truck," he said. "It belongs to a man named Martin Dales. He's under investigation for property scams in 3 states. You were right, Ryan. This is a large operation." Ryan thanked him and asked what could be done next. Daniels replied, "We're coordinating with the federal team, but it might take some time." Ryan looked at the old photo of his father standing in front of the ranch gate. "Time is the one thing I don't have," he said quietly. Later that day, Ryan decided to visit the army base nearby, where he still had some contacts. His old friend, Sergeant Paul, worked in the legal office. Ryan told him everything. Paul listened carefully and said, "If you were on active duty during the fake sale, that changes everything. It becomes a federal military property protection case. They can't just take your land while you were deployed." Paul helped Ryan file an official military complaint. The report went to the Department of Defense's legal division. They reviewed the documents and confirmed that Ryan's rights had been violated under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, which protected soldiers from property loss during deployment. Within a few days, Ryan received confirmation that the Army had opened an inquiry. A special investigator contacted him for more details. Ryan provided photos, videos, and copies of all the fake letters Mia had saved. The investigator promised to take action soon. Meanwhile, the people on the ranch continued living as if nothing was happening. They had no idea what was coming. They even started putting up a new sign that said, "Sunridge Private Community." Ryan saw it while driving past one evening. It made him shake his head. Back at Mia's house, he said, "They think they're safe because they look official. But they have no idea the real officials are about to show up." Mia smiled slightly. "Do you think the Army will really step in?" Ryan replied, "They protect their own, and they won't stand by when a soldier's home is stolen through lies." The next week felt long. Ryan received updates from both the sheriff and the Army investigator. They had confirmed that multiple properties in the area were sold illegally by the same fake HOA group. The investigation expanded fast. The names Ryan had written down were all connected. On Friday morning, several black SUVs arrived at the county office. Federal officers stepped out, holding files and warrants. They began collecting documents, talking to employees, and seizing fake records. News spread quickly through town. When Ryan heard about it, he felt a wave of relief. But he also knew that the main part was still ahead. The ranch was still under the control of the fake owners. They would have to be removed legally. That evening, Ryan got a call from the Army investigator. "Mr. Ryan, thank you for your patience. We've confirmed the fraud and will coordinate with local law enforcement tomorrow morning. You may want to stay nearby." Ryan looked out the window, the golden sunset glowing over the hills. "I'll be ready," he said. The next morning was calm. The fake owners had no idea that their plan was falling apart. They woke up early, just like every other day, walking around the ranch and talking about their weekend plans. But that peace would not last long. Something big was about to happen. Something that would make the entire neighborhood remember that when you steal from a soldier, you don't just face one man. You face the whole army. The next morning started quietly across the town, but there was a sense of tension in the air. Ryan stood near the old gas station across from his ranch, wearing a plain jacket and a cap pulled low. He watched the familiar hills that guarded his land and waited. He had spent the night thinking about his family, the people who built that ranch with their hands, and how much it meant to him. At exactly 9 o'clock, a line of dark SUVs appeared at the end of the road. They moved slowly, dust rising behind their tires. Inside those vehicles were people who didn't need fake badges or false authority. They were real federal agents, along with Army investigators and the county sheriff. Ryan felt his chest tighten as he realized the time had finally come. Sheriff Daniels stepped out first and walked toward Ryan. "Morning, Ryan. Today's the day. We've got the orders. We're doing this by the book." Ryan nodded. "I just want the truth to come out." One of the Army officers, a tall woman named Captain Lewis, joined them. She carried a folder under her arm and spoke in a calm but firm tone. "We've confirmed multiple cases of fraud connected to the fake Sunridge HOA. You were not the only target, but your case is the strongest. We have everything we need to act." Ryan pointed toward his ranch. "They're all there. Every one of them who's been running the scam." Captain Lewis looked at Daniels and gave a short nod. The sheriff lifted his radio and called his team. Within minutes, uniformed officers and investigators began to spread out across the area. Ryan stayed back, as Captain Lewis had asked. He watched the scene unfold with a steady gaze. The people on the ranch had no idea what was coming. They were out in the yard talking and drinking coffee, completely unaware. When the convoy reached the ranch gate, 2 men in fake Sunridge security uniforms came forward. They tried to stop the officers, waving their badges. One of the federal agents showed his own identification and said firmly, "Federal investigation, step aside." The fake guards hesitated but were quickly surrounded by the real officers. Within moments, the gate was opened. Inside the property, confusion spread. The fake HOA members came out of the house asking what was happening. One woman demanded to see a warrant, and Captain Lewis handed her a folder. "This land was never legally sold," she said. "All of you are here under false claims." Ryan watched from a distance, his hands clenched. He could see his old barn, his father's wooden chair on the porch, and the same windmill that had turned for years. For the first time since coming back home, he felt a spark of hope. Mia stood beside him, whispering, "It's really happening." He nodded slowly. "They took our peace. Now they're losing their lies." The investigation team moved through the house, checking papers, laptops, and storage boxes. Everything was photographed and sealed. The fake HOA members were questioned one by one. It didn't take long for the truth to start coming out. One of the men admitted that they had used copied signatures to sell multiple houses in the area. They worked under a fake company name registered only online. Another confessed that the so-called HOA fees were just a way to collect money from confused homeowners. Sheriff Daniels came to Ryan and said, "You were right from the start. They've been doing this for months. We've got enough proof to charge every one of them." Ryan looked toward his ranch. "Can I go in now?" The sheriff smiled slightly. "Go ahead. It's your home." Ryan walked slowly through the open gate. The ground felt familiar beneath his boots. The air smelled like dry grass and pine trees. He touched the fence post his father had built years ago. It still stood strong. When he reached the porch, he stopped for a moment and looked around. Everything had changed. The paint, the furniture, even the flower pots. But the soul of the ranch was still there. He stepped inside and saw the walls, the old beams, and the window where he used to sit and watch the rain. Mia followed behind him, her eyes wide with emotion. "It feels strange seeing it like this," she said. Ryan nodded. "They tried to erase our story, but they couldn't." While they walked through the house, Captain Lewis joined them. "We'll keep the property sealed for a few days," she said. "You'll get full ownership restored once the paperwork is completed. You've also helped us uncover one of the biggest property fraud cases in this county." Ryan thanked her, but his face stayed calm. "I just wanted justice, not just for me, but for everyone they cheated." Later that day, news reporters arrived. Cameras flashed as officials carried boxes of evidence. The story spread quickly through town and across local media. People were shocked to learn how the fake HOA had fooled so many. Some neighbors came by to thank Ryan for standing up and not giving up. By evening, the ranch looked quiet again. The fake owners were gone, and law enforcement had taken control of the property. Ryan stood near the barn watching the sunset. The orange light touched the grass, and for a moment everything looked peaceful again. Mia walked up with 2 cups of tea. "You did it," she said softly. Ryan shook his head. "We did it. You never gave up, even when I was away." She smiled. "This ranch means a lot to both of us. I wasn't going to let anyone take it." The next morning, Ryan met Captain Lewis again. She told him that the investigation had expanded beyond their town. Several other fake HOA networks had been traced, and the people behind them were being arrested. She also said that the Army wanted to recognize Ryan for his effort and cooperation. Ryan was grateful, but still thoughtful. "There's one thing that still bothers me," he said. "Who helped them inside the county office?" Someone changed my records. Captain Lewis nodded. We're looking into that. There's a suspect, and once we have proof, we'll act. A few days later, Ryan received a call from Sheriff Daniels. Ryan, you might want to come to the station. We caught the man who altered your land records. When Ryan arrived, he saw a familiar face. It was the clerk named Collins, the same one Mia had heard about. The man sat quietly, avoiding eye contact. Daniels said, he was paid by the fake HOA to replace real property files with false ones. He thought he could get away with it. Ryan looked at the man and said calmly, you sold your honesty for money and now you'll pay for it. Collins said nothing. That evening, Ryan returned to his ranch once more. It was quiet again, the way he remembered it. The horses were back in the stable, the air was calm and the stars were bright. Mia had helped clean up the porch, and together they started putting everything back the way it used to be. As they worked, Ryan thought about all that had happened, the fake cops, the lies, the stolen land, and the long fight for truth. But he also thought about something deeper. The people who took the ranch thought they were powerful because they wore fake uniforms and carried fake authority. But they never understood what real honor meant. That night, Ryan sat on the porch with a warm drink in his hand. The wind moved softly through the trees. He looked at the fields and smiled. For the first time since coming home, he felt peace return to his heart. But even though things were calm, the story wasn't over yet. The federal officers had uncovered something even bigger, something that would shake the entire neighborhood. Ryan's fight for his ranch was only the beginning of a much larger storm that was about to unfold. The next few weeks were calmer for Ryan and his sister Mia, but deep inside, Ryan knew that something bigger was still hidden behind the fake HOA group. The main culprits had been caught, but the investigation was far from over. The Army's legal team and the federal officers were still collecting evidence, and every new document revealed more names and deeper lies. One morning, Captain Lewis came to visit the ranch. Her car stopped at the gate and Ryan met her outside. She carried a folder filled with papers. Her expression was serious. Ryan, she said, I wanted to tell you this in person. The group that sold your ranch wasn't just a few people trying to make money. It's part of a much larger network that's been targeting land near old military zones. Your property was chosen because of its location. Ryan frowned. Location? What's special about my land? Captain Lewis opened the folder and pointed at a map. Look here. Your ranch sits on a water line that connects to a federal training ground about 20 miles away. They wanted this land to gain access to build an illegal storage project. They made fake HOA rules to control the area. Mia, who was standing nearby, looked surprised. So it wasn't just about selling houses? No, Captain Lewis said. It was about taking control of property that had hidden value. They wanted to sell it to outside companies later. Ryan shook his head slowly. They tried to steal our home for their own plans. Captain Lewis nodded. But their plan is finished now. The Army is taking action to secure all nearby land. There will be a full review of the entire neighborhood. Ryan felt mixed emotions. He was relieved that justice was being done. But he was also sad for the families around who had unknowingly trusted the fake HOA. Some of them had already paid fake fees or signed false papers. Later that day, Ryan and Mia decided to visit a few neighbors to check how they were doing. Many of them were friendly people who had lived there for years. When they arrived at Mr. and Mrs. Carter's house down the road, the couple looked tired and confused. We heard there's another inspection coming, Mrs. Carter said. Is it true? Ryan nodded. It's not an inspection. It's the Army and federal team making sure everyone's land is safe again. They're removing everything connected to the fake HOA. Mr. Carter sighed. We should have known something was wrong when those people started sending letters. We thought it was just a new rule. Ryan comforted them. It's not your fault. They fooled many people, but things will be right again. In the following days, Army trucks and local police vehicles were seen driving through the neighborhood. Officers went door to door, checking documents and talking to families. Ryan helped them by explaining which areas were affected. The town's news station covered the story daily, calling it the biggest property fraud case in years. The more the officers investigated, the more they discovered. Dozens of houses had fake ownership records. Several people who claimed to be HOA members were actually paid actors hired to appear official. They used fake badges, fake email addresses, and even fake websites to look real. One afternoon, as Ryan was helping sort old family papers inside his house, Mia rushed in holding her phone. "Ryan, you need to see this," she said. She showed him a message from one of the investigators. It said that several fake HOA leaders were working from a luxury office building in another city. Ryan looked thoughtful. "So the people here were just following orders from someone else?" Mia nodded. "They were the faces of the scam, but the real planners stayed hidden." Captain Lewis confirmed this later. She told Ryan that a federal team was preparing to move in on those higher members. "Once they're caught, this entire network will collapse," she said. The next morning, the Army's legal division held a public meeting at the town hall. Dozens of residents gathered there. The hall was full of whispers and worried faces. Captain Lewis stood at the front with Sheriff Daniels beside her. Ryan and Mia sat in the front row. Captain Lewis began speaking. "We know this has been a hard time for all of you. Many families here were affected by the fake Sunridge HOA. We want to assure you that every property will be restored to its rightful owner. The federal court has ordered the removal of all illegal occupants and all false claims." People clapped softly, some with tears in their eyes. Then she continued, "There is one more step. The Army will secure this entire zone temporarily to make sure no one can misuse this land again." Ryan understood what that meant. The Army would move in and protect the area, even if that meant some people would have to move out for a while. After the meeting, Ryan spoke to Captain Lewis. "Does that mean the whole neighborhood will be cleared?" She nodded. "Only for a short time. But yes, every house connected to the false HOA will be checked and emptied until it's proven clean." That evening, as the sun went down, Ryan walked along the fence line. He could see the lights from other houses in the distance. Some families were packing, unsure of what would happen next. He felt bad for them, even though he knew it was the right thing to do. Mia joined him. "It's strange, isn't it?" she said. "We just got our home back, and now the Army is coming to take control of the area." Ryan smiled faintly. "They're not taking it. They're protecting it. They want to make sure no one ever does this again." The next few days were filled with activity. Army trucks arrived, setting up checkpoints and marking property boundaries. Officers helped residents pack their things. The operation was calm and well organized. The goal was not to punish innocent people, but to remove any connection to the fake HOA system. Ryan worked with Captain Lewis and Sheriff Daniels during the process. Together, they ensured that no honest homeowner was treated unfairly. When the day came for the final sweep, the entire neighborhood stood outside watching as the Army team moved through the area. Every fake sign, every false badge, and every trace of the Sunridge HOA was removed. It felt like watching a storm clear the sky after a long, dark season. One officer walked up to Ryan and saluted him. "You started this," he said. "If you hadn't spoken up, they might have taken the whole town." Ryan returned the salute. "I just did what was right." That night, as the neighborhood grew silent again, Ryan stood on his porch. The moon shone over the wide fields, and the air felt cleaner than before. The fake HOA was gone. The fraud was exposed. But still, Ryan sensed something deeper behind all this. The main culprits were still out there hiding behind papers and money. He turned to Mia and said, "The people here will finally sleep in peace tonight. But I have a feeling this isn't the end yet." Mia looked at him worried. "What do you mean?" Ryan replied, "Those who planned this will not give up easily. They lost their control here, but they might try again somewhere else. And if they do, we'll be ready." Mia nodded, understanding the quiet determination in her brother's eyes. The wind moved softly through the grass, carrying the smell of clean earth and hope. For the first time, the ranch and the land around it belonged to the right people again. But far away, in an office lit by city lights, the people who had created the fake HOA were already planning their next move. And this time, they were not just after land. They were after something much bigger. The night after the Army cleared the neighborhood, the air felt still and calm. For the first time in months, Ryan slept peacefully. The sound of crickets outside and the cool wind through the open window reminded him of the old days before the trouble began. He had his ranch back, and that meant everything to him. But early the next morning, he woke to a phone call. It was Captain Lewis. Her voice was serious but calm. "Ryan, we've found the main headquarters of the fake HOA network. The people who planned everything have been identified. They used fake names, but our team traced the money they collected. The operation stretched across several states. Ryan sat up, his heart beating faster. "Did you catch them?" "We're moving in today," she said. "We wanted you to know because it started with your case. The evidence you collected helped us find them." Ryan thanked her and stood by the window looking over the open fields. The sunrise painted the sky in shades of gold. It felt like a new beginning, not only for him but for the entire neighborhood. Mia came into the room with 2 cups of tea. "Who was that?" she asked. "It was Captain Lewis," Ryan said. "They're taking down the people behind the fake HOA today." Mia smiled with relief. "Finally. They'll pay for what they did." Ryan nodded. "Yes, but more than punishment, I just want peace for everyone here." A few hours later, the news spread quickly through town. The federal officers had raided a tall office building in the city. Inside, they found boxes of documents, fake IDs, forged land records, and computers full of data. The leaders of the fake HOA group were arrested. One of them was a wealthy businessman named Morgan Hale, who had been using fake property companies to control land across different counties. Ryan watched the live news report from his living room. He saw the officers leading the men out in handcuffs. The reporter explained how the group had targeted soldiers, veterans, and families with old land titles, using false legal threats to take their homes. Mia turned to Ryan and said softly, "They chose the wrong soldier this time." Ryan gave a small smile. "They thought people would stay silent. They were wrong." The next day, Captain Lewis visited the ranch again. She brought official papers from the federal court, confirming that the ranch was fully restored to Ryan's name. She handed him the documents with a proud smile. "You did a great job, Ryan. You helped us uncover something huge. The Army is proud of you and the town owes you thanks." Ryan took the papers and said, "Thank you, Captain. But I didn't do it alone. My sister and Sheriff Daniel stood with me all the way." Captain Lewis smiled. "That's how real strength works. People standing together for what's right." After she left, Ryan and Mia decided to invite their neighbors to the ranch for a small get-together. They wanted to celebrate not just for themselves, but for everyone who had been affected. The people came carrying food, drinks, and smiles. Some brought small gifts like plants and decorations to help Ryan rebuild. The evening was full of laughter and warmth. Children played near the fence while the adults sat around a long table, sharing stories about how they had first met Ryan's family. Many of them thanked him for speaking up when everyone else was too afraid. An older man named Henry stood up during the gathering and said, "This ranch has always been a part of this town's heart. When those fake people tried to take it, we all felt like we were losing something, but Ryan reminded us that truth always wins." Everyone clapped and Ryan felt humble. "I just did what anyone would do to protect their home," he said. "But I learned something important. When you fight for the truth, you're never really alone." As the night grew darker, lanterns were lit and the ranch looked alive again. The sound of laughter and soft music filled the air. Ryan looked at Mia, who smiled at him proudly. "You see," she said, "the ranch is more than just land. It's a place that keeps people together." Ryan nodded. "Yes. And now it will stay that way." The following week, federal officers continued removing any leftover signs or paperwork from the fake HOA's influence. The neighborhood slowly returned to normal life. The families who had left came back to their homes, and new friendships were built through the shared experience of standing up for what was right. Sheriff Daniels came by one afternoon with his usual calm smile. He shook Ryan's hand firmly. "You should be proud. You helped this town more than you can imagine." Ryan replied, "I just wanted the truth. I couldn't watch people lose their homes to lies." The sheriff nodded. "That's exactly why people respect you now. You showed everyone that standing up matters." As days passed, the ranch became a peaceful place again. Ryan spent his mornings fixing fences and feeding the horses. Mia planted flowers near the porch, adding bright colors to the old wooden steps. The air always smelled fresh and the sound of the wind in the trees felt comforting. One afternoon, Ryan received a letter from the Army headquarters. Inside was a formal note of appreciation for his help in uncovering the fraud case. The letter thanked him for his courage and service, both in the field and at home. Ryan read it slowly and smiled. He placed the letter on the mantel beside an old photograph of his father. The photo showed his father standing in front of the same ranch gate, wearing a warm smile. Ryan whispered quietly, "We did it, Dad. The ranch is safe again." That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Ryan and Mia sat on the porch, watching the colors fade from orange to pink. The fields glowed softly in the last light of day. The land was quiet, free from lies and full of peace once more. Mia turned to him and said, "Do you think something like this could happen again?" Ryan looked at the open fields and replied, "Maybe somewhere else. There will always be people who try to cheat others. But there will also be people who stand up to stop them. And that's what matters," Mia smiled. "You sound like Dad," Ryan chuckled. Maybe I finally understand what he meant when he said, "A home isn't just walls and land. It's where truth stands firm." The stars began to appear one by one above the quiet ranch. The world around them seemed peaceful and right again. The army had done its job. Justice had been served. And the land that had been taken through lies was now safe in honest hands. Before going inside, Ryan looked once more at the gate. The new sign he had put there read, "Welcome to Harper Ranch." It was simple, clear, and true. He felt grateful for his sister, for the officers, for the sheriff, and for everyone who believed in the truth. The ranch would continue to stand, not as a reminder of what was lost, but as a symbol of what was won: courage, unity, and justice. And though the fake HOA and their tricks were gone, their story became a lesson for everyone in town, that no matter how strong a lie may seem, truth always finds a way to rise again. As the night settled over the peaceful land, Ryan smiled quietly, knowing that the fight was finally over. His home was safe, his name was cleared, and the spirit of honesty had triumphed once more over greed and deceit.